There is a quiet power in a woman who walks her path alone. She is not moved by the noise of the crowd or the sway of public opinion. This journey she has chosen is one of solitude, but it is far from loneliness. It is in these moments of silence, away from the demands of the world, that she finds her true strength. For her, solitude is not emptiness, it is space to breathe, to become, to exist on her terms. There is a profound strength in choosing to embrace solitude, a decision not born of isolation or loneliness, but of a deep understanding of oneself. Solitude, often misunderstood, is rarely empty or desolate. It is a space, a quiet sanctuary, where one can strip away the expectations, distractions, and noise of the outside world. In solitude, there is a unique opportunity for growth and self-reflection that cannot be replicated in the company of others. Walking a path alone requires courage. The path of solitude is not one that many choose willingly, as it can reveal truths that we often hide from in our day-to-day interactions. In this silence, there is no one else to reflect back our identity. We are left to confront ourselves, to examine our thoughts, to question our beliefs. And yet, within this confrontation, there is a sense of liberation. By being alone, we are free to explore who we truly are without needing to conform to others' expectations or play a role that society has imposed upon us. Solitude teaches a person how to rely on inner strength rather than external validation. When we spend time alone, we are forced to find satisfaction, peace, and fulfillment within ourselves. It's a stark realization that happiness isn't something that can be given or taken away by another person or situation. It's something cultivated from within. Solitude allows us to find contentment without external props, allowing us to discover resilience in a way that only self-reliance can bring. Many people fear being alone because it can bring forth feelings of vulnerability. But solitude does not demand that we suppress these feelings. Rather, it invites us to examine them, to sit with them, and to understand them without judgment. By learning to navigate our emotions independently, we gain a strength that cannot be shaken by the presence or absence of others. This process can be uncomfortable, even unsettling, yet it is precisely through this discomfort that one builds resilience. In solitude, we also find clarity. It is in these quiet moments that we can hear our own voice, distinguish our own thoughts from the noise that surrounds us. Decisions become clearer, values become more defined, and purpose begins to reveal itself in the stillness. Solitude teaches us that we don't need the approval of others to make our own choices. Instead, we are free to shape our lives in alignment with our true selves. Choosing solitude also allows us to confront our fears without distraction. When we are alone, we cannot easily escape our insecurities, our worries, or our doubts. And yet, by facing these directly, we learn that they hold less power over us than we once believed. This journey requires courage, as it can mean stepping into a space where there are no guarantees, no comforts, and no certainties. But in doing so, we learn to trust ourselves, to build faith in our capacity to navigate life without leaning on others. Embracing solitude builds an unshakable inner strength, a strength that is self-contained and deeply rooted. It allows us to understand that we are whole, not because of what we gain from others, but because of what we find within ourselves. This strength is not outwardly visible, it is subtle, profound, and enduring. It is the strength of knowing that come what may, we are complete within ourselves. Independence carries a power unlike any other, a strength that comes not from external forces, but from within. To be independent is to be self-reliant, to navigate life without leaning excessively on others, and to trust one's own decisions and abilities. This path is often challenging, yet it offers a profound sense of freedom and self-assurance. Independence is more than the absence of dependence. It is the embodiment of personal responsibility, resilience, and inner strength. When a person becomes independent, they cultivate the ability to support themselves emotionally, financially, and mentally. They learn to stand on their own, to find stability within themselves, and to draw from their own resources. This requires discipline, as well as the courage to step away from the comfort of relying on others. Independence challenges individuals to tap into their potential, to cultivate skills and knowledge that serve them in all areas of life. In doing so, they discover strengths and capabilities they may not have realized they possessed. The path to independence is often a journey of self-discovery. When one relies less on others, they become more attuned to their own desires, motivations, and goals. Decisions are no longer swayed by the opinions or expectations of others. Instead, they are guided by personal values and aspirations. Independence frees individuals from the constraints of societal pressures, allowing them to live authentically, in alignment with their true selves. This authenticity fosters confidence, as decisions are rooted in a deep understanding of one's needs and preferences. Financial independence, for example, is a powerful form of autonomy that brings freedom in countless ways. It allows individuals to make choices based on their desires rather than financial limitations or obligations to others. With financial independence comes the ability to live life on one's terms, to pursue opportunities, and to build a life that reflects personal values. Similarly, emotional independence liberates individuals from being overly affected by the moods, opinions, or behaviors of others. This form of independence fosters inner peace and stability, as one no longer feels the need to seek constant approval or validation. Independence also brings resilience. When a person relies primarily on themselves, they become adept at handling challenges and adapting to change. Life's inevitable ups and downs are met with a sense of self-sufficiency, as they trust in their ability to overcome obstacles without needing to depend on others. This resilience is empowering, as it affirms that they can withstand hardships, learn from them, and grow stronger as a result. Independence teaches individuals to find solutions within themselves, to problem solve with creativity and resourcefulness. Living independently doesn't mean isolating oneself from others. Rather, it means cultivating the ability to stand strong whether others are present or not. Independent individuals form connections with others out of genuine choice, rather than necessity. Their relationships are based on mutual respect, support, and understanding, free from the pressures of dependency. This dynamic allows for healthier, more fulfilling connections, as both parties are complete and whole on their own. The power of independence is profound because it provides individuals with a foundation of strength that no external force can shake. In this autonomy lies a profound freedom, the freedom to be oneself, to make choices aligned with one's true desires, and to live a life that is deeply fulfilling and uniquely personal. Discovering self-worth is one of life's most transformative journeys, a process of uncovering an intrinsic value that exists beyond achievements, appearances, or the opinions of others. True self-worth is not something given or taken away by the world. It's a recognition of one's own worthiness, an inner knowing that isn't shaken by external circumstances. It is the steady realization that one's value is inherent, unchanging, and complete in itself. The journey toward discovering self-worth often begins when we start questioning the sources of our validation. From an early age, many people are conditioned to seek approval from others, family, friends, society. This conditioning can lead to the belief that worthiness depends on meeting certain expectations or fulfilling certain roles. Yet, over time, the quest for external validation can feel hollow, as it's a form of worth that fluctuates based on the moods and judgments of others. Discovering self-worth is about moving beyond these external sources and finding something deeper within, a place of unshakable assurance and inner respect. Self-worth allows a person to recognize their inherent value, not because of what they do, but simply because they are. This shift from doing to being is liberating. It is the realization that worth does not need to be earned through constant accomplishment. When people begin to discover self-worth, they no longer feel the need to prove themselves constantly. They can release the pressure to perform, to meet others' expectations, or to seek perfection, and instead embrace who they are as enough, just as they are. With self-worth comes the power of self-respect. When people recognize their own value, they naturally start treating themselves with kindness, respect, and care. They establish boundaries, knowing that they deserve relationships and environments that honor their worth. This newfound self-respect changes the way they relate to others. They no longer tolerate relationships that diminish them or undermine their sense of self. Instead, they seek connections that support their growth and respect their individuality. Discovering self-worth also fosters resilience. When worth is rooted in external factors, setbacks or criticisms can feel devastating. But with self-worth, people develop a stable foundation that isn't easily shaken by life's ups and downs. They become more resilient, knowing that their value remains intact regardless of the challenges they face. This resilience is empowering, as it helps them face difficulties with a sense of inner strength and confidence. Failures, instead of defining them, become opportunities for growth. The journey to self-worth is also a journey of self-acceptance. It's about embracing one's strengths and weaknesses, recognizing that worth is not contingent upon being flawless. It's about releasing the need to hide imperfections or mask vulnerabilities. By accepting themselves fully, people create space for genuine self-compassion, which fosters a deep, lasting contentment. They realize that self-worth means embracing themselves wholeheartedly, with all their unique quirks, flaws, and qualities. As self-worth grows, it impacts every area of life. Decisions become easier because they're based on what aligns with one's true values rather than what might gain approval. People start pursuing goals and dreams that genuinely fulfill them, rather than those that merely impress others. This shift allows them to live authentically, free from the pressure to conform or compromise their values for validation. Discovering self-worth is a journey to the center of oneself. It's a process of letting go of outside expectations, embracing one's individuality, and recognizing a value that is both enduring and unconditional. It transforms the way a person lives, from seeking worth in the world to embodying it from within, radiating a quiet confidence that only self-worth can bring. Freedom from conformity is a liberating journey of self-discovery and authenticity, a process of stepping away from the confines of societal expectations and embracing one's true nature. Of conformity, while offering comfort and a sense of belonging, often leads people to suppress their individuality, temper their passions, and ignore the call of their own desires. To break free from conformity is to reclaim the courage to be oneself without apology, to live according to one's unique values, and to honor one's own path. This journey begins with self-awareness as one becomes conscious of the subtle pressures to fit into predefined molds. These pressures come from all directions: family expectations, cultural norms, peer influences, and the ever-present voice of society dictating what is normal or acceptable. Often these influences are so ingrained that it's difficult to distinguish where they end and one's true self begins. To seek freedom from conformity, one must first unearth and acknowledge these influences, questioning their relevance and impact. In doing so, individuals start to separate their authentic desires from the expectations imposed upon them, a process that requires deep introspection and courage. Breaking free from conformity also involves overcoming the fear of rejection. Society frequently rewards conformity with acceptance and belonging, making it challenging to forge a different path without risking alienation or judgment. But the pursuit of authenticity is a powerful antidote to this fear. As individuals become more aligned with their true selves, the need for approval from others diminishes. The validation that once came from fitting in is replaced by an inner sense of worth and purpose, a feeling that no amount of external validation can replicate. This transition is not always easy, as it requires standing firm in one's values and choices, even when they contradict societal norms. Another essential aspect of freedom from conformity is the empowerment it brings. When people stop trying to fit into a box, they discover parts of themselves they may have long ignored or suppressed. Talents, dreams, and ideas that were once hidden come to light, as there is now space to explore them without fear of judgment. This exploration fuels creativity, individuality, and self-expression, as they are no longer bound by the limitations of what others deem appropriate or successful. Instead, they create their definitions of success and fulfillment, definitions that reflect their genuine interests and passions. Freedom from conformity also allows individuals to embrace diversity not only in others, but within themselves. When the need to conform dissipates, there is an openness to accept different aspects of one's personality. People become less inclined to judge themselves by rigid standards, allowing for flexibility and growth. This freedom fosters self-compassion, as they realize that being unique is not something to be corrected but celebrated. It's a realization that life is far richer and more fulfilling when one embraces complexity and contradictions within oneself. Living outside the boundaries of conformity means crafting a life based on authentic choices. Decisions are no longer made based on what will please others or fit into a specific narrative, but rather on what resonates deeply and genuinely. With each choice rooted in authenticity, individuals begin to experience a profound sense of freedom and satisfaction. There is less need to constantly evaluate oneself against societal standards because they have established their values and priorities. Freedom from conformity does not imply isolation from society, but instead represents a way to engage with the world authentically. It means forming connections and relationships not out of a need to fit in, but from a place of genuine interest and mutual respect. By stepping away from conformity, people attract those who appreciate and resonate with their true selves, leading to more meaningful and fulfilling relationships. This authentic approach extends to every interaction, bringing depth and sincerity that conformity can never offer. Freedom from conformity is a commitment to one's own path. It's a journey that values personal truth over external expectations, one that embraces individuality without compromise. It creates a life that feels vibrant and fulfilling, not because it matches any societal template, but because it is built upon the foundation of true self-discovery and courage. Learning through self-reflection is a profound process of growth and understanding, an inward journey that reveals insights about our thoughts, emotions, and actions. In a world that often emphasizes external achievements and appearances, self-reflection encourages us to look within, to examine the inner workings of our minds and hearts, and to learn from our own experiences. This form of introspection is essential for personal growth, as it provides the space and clarity needed to understand not only what we do, but why we do it. Self-reflection begins with awareness. To truly learn from our experiences, we must first become aware of them, how they impacted us, the choices we made, and the outcomes of those choices. It is easy to move through life on autopilot, reacting to situations without pausing to understand what drives our responses. Self-reflection disrupts this cycle, inviting us to slow down and examine the motivations, beliefs, and emotions behind our actions. By becoming more aware of our inner world, we gain the ability to respond rather than react, making choices that align with our values and goals. Through self-reflection, we uncover patterns in our behaviors and thought processes. Many of these patterns are unconscious, shaped by past experiences, cultural conditioning, or deeply held beliefs. For instance, someone may notice that they often shy away from opportunities because of an underlying fear of failure, a belief that may have gone unnoticed for years. By reflecting on this pattern, they can begin to question its origin and its validity, recognizing that this fear is not an absolute truth, but rather a limiting belief. This realization empowers them to take steps toward breaking free from this pattern, allowing them to approach future opportunities with greater confidence and courage. Self-reflection also deepens emotional intelligence. When we take the time to examine our feelings, we develop a better understanding of what triggers them and how they affect us. Rather than being overwhelmed by emotions, we learn to sit with them, to understand their roots, and to identify what they may be trying to tell us. For example, feelings of anger may indicate a boundary has been crossed, or sadness may reveal a need for connection or understanding. This awareness allows us to address the underlying needs behind our emotions rather than simply reacting to the surface feelings. Over time, this practice builds emotional resilience as we become more skilled at managing and understanding our own emotions. In addition, self-reflection promotes empathy and compassion, both for ourselves and for others. When we reflect on our own mistakes and challenges, we learn to approach ourselves with understanding rather than harsh criticism. This self-compassion, in turn, makes us more forgiving and empathetic toward others, as we recognize that everyone is on their own journey of growth and learning. Self-reflection helps us see that flaws and imperfections are part of being human, and this understanding fosters a gentler, more compassionate approach to both ourselves and those around us. The insights gained from self-reflection also shape our future actions. By learning from past experiences, we become better equipped to navigate similar situations in the future. Self-reflection allows us to identify what worked, what didn't, and how we might approach things differently next time. This ongoing cycle of reflection and adjustment is at the heart of personal development. It is a continuous process of refining our thoughts, actions, and beliefs in alignment with our evolving understanding of ourselves. Self-reflection, therefore, is not merely a tool for looking backward, but a powerful method for shaping our future. It provides the insight needed to make conscious, intentional choices that align with our values and aspirations. Through reflection, we gain a deeper understanding of who we are and who we want to become, building a foundation of self-awareness that guides us in every area of life. It empowers us to take ownership of our growth, learn from our journey, and move forward with a clearer sense of purpose and direction. The courage to face uncertainty is one of the most valuable forms of strength we can develop. Life is inherently unpredictable, filled with twists and turns that can be unsettling or even frightening. From career changes and relationship transitions to personal setbacks and global challenges, uncertainty is woven into the fabric of our existence. Yet while uncertainty is often seen as a source of anxiety, learning to face it with courage opens the door to growth, resilience, and a deeper understanding of ourselves. Courage in the face of uncertainty begins with acceptance. Often we resist change because we fear losing control or are afraid of stepping into the unknown. However, fighting against uncertainty only intensifies the anxiety it brings. By accepting that uncertainty is a natural part of life, we shift our focus from fearing the unknown to embracing it as a field of possibility. This acceptance doesn't mean surrendering to whatever happens without intention, but rather acknowledging that while we can't control every outcome, we can control how we respond to the unknown. Facing uncertainty with courage requires a willingness to let go of the illusion of control. We often rely on routines, habits, and plans as anchors, believing they offer stability and predictability. While structure has its place, clinging to it too tightly can hinder our ability to adapt and grow. Embracing uncertainty invites us to let go of rigid expectations and to trust in our capacity to handle whatever comes our way. This act of letting go, while challenging, is an empowering shift, allowing us to approach life with openness and flexibility. The courage to face uncertainty is also deeply rooted in self-trust. When we believe in our ability to navigate unfamiliar situations, we become less dependent on certainty for comfort. Instead of fearing the unknown, we begin to see it as an opportunity to test our resilience, creativity, and adaptability. Each uncertain moment becomes a chance to reaffirm our inner strength and expand our sense of self. By learning to trust ourselves, we build confidence in our ability to find solutions, even in situations where we don't have all the answers. Uncertainty fosters personal growth by encouraging us to step beyond our comfort zones. The fear of the unknown often keeps us within familiar boundaries, limiting our potential. When we muster the courage to face uncertainty, we discover new facets of ourselves and abilities we may not have realized we possessed. Each challenge faced in uncertain circumstances serves as a stepping stone for growth, teaching us valuable lessons and helping us build resilience. Another significant aspect of courage in facing uncertainty is the ability to focus on the present. Often uncertainty triggers our minds to project fears into the future, creating worst-case scenarios that may never happen. Learning to anchor ourselves in the present helps to quiet these anxieties. By focusing on the here and now, we break free from the pull of hypothetical fears and ground ourselves in what is real and immediate. Practicing mindfulness in this way strengthens our capacity to remain calm and centered, even in the face of unpredictable circumstances. Uncertainty also offers us a unique opportunity to cultivate patience. When outcomes are unknown, we are invited to let go of the need for immediate results or answers. In these moments of waiting, we learn to trust the timing of our lives and to have faith that things will unfold as they are meant to. Patience helps us stay composed, even in challenging times, as we recognize that growth often requires time, and that every step, however uncertain, is part of our journey. Courage in the face of uncertainty builds resilience. Each time we confront the unknown, we grow stronger, more adaptable, and more self-assured. We learn that we can survive and even thrive through unexpected changes. This resilience becomes a foundation upon which we can build a life of purpose and fulfillment, knowing that we can face whatever comes our way with grace and strength. Embracing uncertainty becomes not just an act of courage, but a path toward a richer, more meaningful existence. Choosing inner peace over external validation is a profound act of self-liberation. In a world that often measures worth by external achievements, approval, and social status, many people seek validation outside themselves, hoping that the approval of others will fill an inner void. Yet this quest for validation is rarely satisfying. In the long term, it becomes an endless cycle, a craving that never truly brings contentment. Inner peace, on the other hand, is a state of being that isn't dependent on external sources but is cultivated within. It brings a lasting sense of fulfillment that transcends the fleeting nature of external recognition. The journey to prioritize inner peace begins with recognizing the limitations of external validation. While praise, recognition, and success can feel rewarding, their effects are often temporary. People who rely solely on external approval find themselves constantly chasing the next achievement, compliment, or acknowledgement, believing that these things will finally make them feel complete. This dependence on others' opinions can create anxiety, as self-worth becomes tied to something outside their control. By seeking inner peace, individuals detach their sense of worth from external sources and learn to find value in simply being themselves. Achieving inner peace requires a commitment to self-acceptance. To let go of the need for validation, one must first embrace themselves fully, with all strengths and flaws. Self-acceptance is about understanding that worth isn't determined by perfection or by meeting someone else's standards, but by embracing one's true nature. When individuals learn to accept themselves as they are, they experience a sense of wholeness that doesn't rely on external approval. This self-acceptance fosters a deep sense of peace, as it allows individuals to stop striving for a version of themselves that they think others will approve of. Inner peace also encourages people to live authentically. When one is no longer concerned with impressing others or meeting societal expectations, there is freedom to pursue what genuinely brings joy and fulfillment. Decisions are no longer based on the fear of judgment, but rather on a sincere desire to live in alignment with personal values. This authenticity creates a harmony between one's inner self and outer actions, leading to a life that feels true and fulfilling. By embracing authenticity, individuals cultivate an inner peace that is not only resilient, but also brings a deep sense of satisfaction. The pursuit of inner peace also involves letting go of comparisons. Constantly measuring oneself against others leads to feelings of inadequacy and envy, as there will always be someone who appears more successful, attractive, or accomplished. Comparisons are rooted in the need for external validation, as they imply that worth is determined by how one measures up to others. When people stop comparing themselves and focus instead on their own growth and well-being, they free themselves from this toxic cycle. Inner peace flourishes when individuals focus on their unique path, recognizing that their worth is inherent and cannot be diminished by someone else's success. crucial and essential aspect of choosing inner peace over external validation is cultivating a sense of inner stability. Life is full of changes and uncertainties, and external validation is as fleeting as the circumstances that create it. By grounding themselves in inner peace, individuals build resilience that helps them weather the highs and lows of life. This inner stability provides comfort and assurance, as they know their worth is not dependent on any external factor. In moments of difficulty or rejection, this inner peace serves as a steady anchor, reminding them of their intrinsic value and helping them remain centered. Finally, prioritizing inner peace creates a profound sense of freedom. When people no longer rely on the opinions of others for their self-worth, they are liberated from the pressures of societal expectations. They become free to live on their terms, pursuing passions, relationships, and goals that genuinely fulfill them without worrying about how they will be perceived. This freedom allows them to experience life with a sense of joy and contentment that can only come from within. Choosing inner peace over external validation is a decision to live with a deep, unshakable sense of worth. It's a journey that leads to a fulfilling life, grounded not in the approval of others, but in a lasting, internal sense of peace and self-acceptance. The role model of resilience embodies the strength to persevere through adversity, the ability to remain steady in turbulent times, and the wisdom to grow from every experience. Resilience isn't about avoiding challenges, it's about facing them head-on, learning from setbacks, and continuing forward with renewed strength. Role models of resilience inspire us by showing that challenges are not roadblocks but stepping stones, each one offering a chance to evolve and adapt. They demonstrate that resilience is not just about bouncing back, but about moving forward, often stronger than before. Such individuals understand that life's difficulties are inevitable. Instead of being discouraged by obstacles, they approach them with a mindset that views adversity as an opportunity to learn and grow. They are not defined by what happens to them, but by how they respond to it. Resilient role models accept that setbacks, pain, and loss are part of life's journey. By embracing this understanding, they avoid the trap of self-pity and instead focus on what they can control, how they choose to react. They exhibit a grounded sense of acceptance, knowing that life's unpredictable nature is a reality that everyone faces. Another remarkable trait of resilient role models is their adaptability. In the face of challenges, they are willing to adjust their plans, attitudes, and approaches, often rethinking their strategies without losing sight of their goals. This adaptability allows them to remain flexible without compromising their values or purpose. Rather than becoming rigid or overwhelmed by circumstances, they adapt, finding creative solutions and new paths when the original route becomes blocked. This adaptability is a key element of resilience, as it enables individuals to navigate change without losing their direction. Resilient role models also display an unwavering commitment to self-belief. Even in the face of doubt or failure, they hold on to an inner confidence that they can overcome whatever life throws their way. This self-belief is not about ignoring weaknesses or challenges, but about recognizing and trusting their ability to persevere despite them. They know that setbacks do not define their worth or potential. This inner confidence becomes a source of strength, allowing them to tackle each challenge with courage and determination. It's their belief in themselves that empowers them to keep going, even when others might give up. These individuals also cultivate emotional resilience. They are willing to confront difficult emotions, understanding that avoiding or suppressing feelings can hinder their ability to move forward. By acknowledging and processing their emotions, they develop a deeper understanding of themselves and a greater ability to manage emotional challenges in the future. They do not shy away from sadness, frustration, or fear, but face these emotions with honesty and compassion. This emotional resilience enables them to handle life's ups and downs with balance, remaining composed even in the most trying times. Resilient role models often possess a sense of purpose that goes beyond personal gain. Their resilience is fueled by a commitment to something greater, whether it's family, community, a cause, or a personal mission. This sense of purpose gives them the strength to endure hardship as they recognize that their struggles serve a larger purpose. When challenges arise, they are motivated by this sense of meaning, which provides a steady source of inspiration and energy. It's this purpose-driven approach that gives them the stamina to persevere and, in turn, inspire others. Resilience in these role models is often paired with an attitude of optimism. They maintain a hopeful perspective, seeing the possibility for growth and positive outcomes even in difficult situations. This optimism is not about ignoring reality, it's about focusing on what can be gained or learned. By holding on to hope, they remind us that even the darkest times can lead to new beginnings. Their optimism becomes contagious, showing others that hardship can indeed give way to opportunity, and that resilience is often the bridge between struggle and success. In their journey, resilient role models uplift others simply by example. They don't preach resilience, they embody it in every action and choice, showing that strength isn't about never falling, but about always getting back up. Through their actions, they encourage others to build their own resilience, demonstrating that while life's challenges are unavoidable, they can be met with courage, adaptability, and a sense of purpose. In the process, they inspire those around them to face their own difficulties with the same strength, hope, and determination. In conclusion, a role model of resilience teaches us that true strength lies not in avoiding hardship, but in embracing it with courage, agility, and purpose. Through their unwavering self-belief, emotional resilience, and a deep commitment to growth, they show us that every setback is an opportunity to learn and evolve. They remind us that life's challenges, though difficult, are not barriers but bridges to deeper understanding and strength. By embodying resilience in every choice and action, they inspire us to face our own struggles with hope and determination, proving that resilience is not just about surviving adversity, but thriving through it. There stands a woman without friends, without the laughter of companionship echoing in her ears, and without the comfort of shared stories. Many might pity her, assuming she is lonely or missing out on the richness of life. But I invite you to look again, not with the eyes of judgment, but with the curiosity of a child. Solitude is often misunderstood, seen as a shadowy state to be avoided, a lonely place where one is cut off from the warmth of human connection. Yet solitude is not the absence of others, but the presence of oneself, stripped of all distractions, expectations, and societal demands. It is a space where the noise of the external world fades, and what remains is the quiet hum of one's own existence. In solitude, we are faced with a mirror, a deep and sometimes unsettling reflection of who we truly are when no one else is around to define us. In the modern world, we are conditioned to fear being alone, to equate it with loneliness, as if the value of our lives is measured solely by the number of connections we maintain. Solitude, however, is not a void, it is a canvas. It is the fertile ground where the seeds of self-awareness, creativity, and deep thought can grow. When we are alone, we are free to explore our thoughts without interruption, to wander through the landscape of our own minds without the pressure to conform or perform. There is a stillness in solitude, a chance to reconnect with the rhythms of our own hearts. Without the constant chatter of social interaction, the layers we wear for others begin to peel away. We shed the personas, the masks we put on to fit into various roles and expectations. Solitude becomes a kind of purification, a cleansing of the mental and emotional clutter that accumulates in the presence of others. It allows us to sit with our own truths, to face the fears and desires that often remain hidden beneath the surface. It is in this solitude that we come face to face with our vulnerability, our strengths, and the parts of ourselves that we often keep at a distance. To embrace solitude is to make peace with one's own company, to discover that we are enough without the validation of others. This acceptance can be liberating, for when we no longer seek constant approval or affirmation, we begin to act from a place of authenticity. The need to impress or to belong fades away, replaced by a quiet confidence rooted in self-understanding. In solitude, we learn to listen to ourselves, to the world, to the subtler currents of existence that are drowned out by the din of everyday life. There is a richness in solitude that goes unnoticed by those who fear it. It is a time to nurture one's inner life, to read, to write, to create, to meditate, or simply to be. It is a time to connect with nature, to walk alone in a forest or sit by the sea and feel the pulse of the earth without the distraction of conversation. In these moments one finds clarity. Thoughts slow down, the mind becomes less cluttered, and a certain kind of wisdom can arise, wisdom that comes not from the collective, but from the depths of one's own soul. Solitude teaches us that everything we seek outwardly, comfort, acceptance, and understanding, can be found within. It shows us that we are capable of standing on our own, that we are whole even when we are alone. Far from being a state of deprivation, solitude is an invitation to dive deep into the well of our own being, to find out what truly matters to us, and to see the world not through the eyes of others, but through our own. It is a reminder that before we can genuinely connect with others, we must first connect with ourselves. To be alone is not to be abandoned, it is to be free. It is to stand in the quiet center of one's own existence, free from the distractions and demands of the outer world. Solitude is a teacher, and its lessons are those that we can only learn when we have the courage to sit in stillness, in silence, and simply be. Friendship, as society defines it, is a complex web of expectations, roles, and obligations. From a young age, we are taught that having friends is a sign of success, of social competence, and ultimately of happiness. The very fabric of our culture is woven with the idea that to be alone is to be incomplete, and that true fulfillment comes from being surrounded by others. This idea, however, is not as straightforward as it seems. The construct of friendship, as society presents it, often obscures the deeper truths about connection, companionship, and the self. We are led to believe that friends are a necessity, that the more we have, the more validated and valuable we are. This belief often pushes individuals to seek friendships not from a place of genuine connection, but from a need to belong, to fit into the expectations of what it means to be socially successful. As a result, many friendships are not born out of true affinity, but out of convenient circumstance or a mutual desire to avoid solitude. They become transactional, built on a foundation of shared benefits, rather than shared understanding. The pressure to maintain these connections can lead to a kind of self-betrayal, where one conforms to the expectations of the group to avoid conflict, or to be accepted. In doing so, individuality can be lost, and the true self becomes obscured behind the masks we wear to fit into social circles. We laugh at jokes that do not amuse us, agree with opinions that do not resonate with us, and participate in activities that hold no true interest simply to maintain the bonds of friendship. The social construct of friendship often demands compromise, but too much compromise can blur the lines between who we are and who we pretend to be. There is also a silent weight that comes with maintaining friendships, the weight of expectations. Friends often expect time, attention, loyalty, and emotional investment. These are not inherently negative, but they can become burdensome when they are unspoken requirements that one must fulfill to be considered a good friend. This expectation can turn friendship into a kind of social obligation, where the fear of disappointing others leads to feelings of guilt or anxiety. In many ways, friendships can become contracts with unspoken rules and conditions that must be followed to keep the relationship intact. Furthermore, the idea that friends validate our worth is a deeply ingrained social narrative. To have no friends is often seen as a failure, as if one's value as a human being is somehow diminished by a lack of social connections. This creates a culture where people might stay in unhealthy or unfulfilling relationships simply to avoid the stigma of solitude. The need for external validation can make friendships fragile, as they rely on the approval and acceptance of others to maintain a sense of self-worth. Yet the social construct of friendship also hides a profound truth: many friendships are not as deep or meaningful as they appear. The term friend is often used loosely, applied to acquaintances and colleagues without the depth of understanding that true friendship requires. This overuse of the word can dilute its meaning, leading to relationships that are shallow, performative, or based on convenience rather than a deep emotional or intellectual connection. Our society often overlooks the idea that genuine friendship is rare and does not require a large social network to be meaningful. It is not the quantity, but the quality of friendships that brings true companionship. Yet the social construct encourages us to focus on numbers, how many friends we have, how often we are invited to social gatherings, how connected we appear. In doing so, it distracts us from the more profound pursuit of finding those few individuals with whom we can share an authentic and unfiltered connection. The social construct of friendship, while providing a framework for connection, can also act as a barrier to genuine understanding. It can obscure the value of solitude, the importance of self-awareness, and the power of being alone without feeling lonely. True friendship transcends social constructs, but the path to discovering it often involves questioning the very narratives we have been taught to believe. Self-reliance is often misunderstood as a cold, detached independence, a refusal to rely on anyone else. Yet true self-reliance is not about isolation, it is about cultivating an inner strength that enables one to stand firm, even when the winds of life blow fiercest. It is about finding a sense of stability and wholeness within oneself, rather than seeking it in the shifting sands of external circumstances or in the approval of others. Inner strength is born not in moments of ease, but in the crucible of challenges. When we face difficulties alone, without leaning on the constant support of others, we are compelled to dig deeper into our own reserves. This process can be uncomfortable, even painful, but it is through discomfort that we learn what we are truly capable of. It is in those moments of solitude, when there is no one to solve our problems for us, that we discover resilience we never knew we had. We learn to trust our intuition, to rely on our judgment, and to take responsibility for our actions. Self-reliance does not mean we do not value others, it means that our sense of self-worth is not dependent on them. It is the freedom to stand alone without feeling incomplete. Society often teaches us to seek validation and guidance from others, to follow the paths laid out by those who came before us, and to measure our success by the standards of those around us. But self-reliance is a quiet rebellion against these norms. It is the courage to define our own values, to pursue our own goals, and to live in alignment with our own sense of purpose, even when that path diverges from the expectations of others. This kind of inner strength allows one to face the uncertainties of life with a sense of calm and confidence. The world is unpredictable, and the more we rely on external factors for our happiness and stability, the more vulnerable we become to their fluctuations. Self-reliance offers a kind of emotional independence, a way of weathering life's storms without losing one's center. It is the understanding that, while relationships and connections are valuable, they are not the foundation of one's identity. Instead, the foundation is built upon a profound relationship with oneself, a relationship that is nurtured through self-reflection, personal growth, and the willingness to face one's fears alone. Inner strength also involves a recognition of one's limitations and the acceptance of imperfection. It is not about projecting an image of invincibility, but about embracing vulnerability without being overwhelmed by it. To be self-reliant is to acknowledge one's flaws, to learn from one's mistakes, and to continue moving forward, even in the face of adversity. It is the recognition that strength is not the absence of weakness, but the ability to carry on despite it. This acceptance of oneself, with all one's complexities and contradictions, is the true source of inner power. Self-reliance leads to a kind of freedom that cannot be achieved through dependency. It is the freedom to choose one's own path, to make decisions based on one's own understanding, and to accept the consequences of those choices without deflecting blame or seeking approval. This freedom is not without its challenges, as it requires a willingness to take risks and to face the unknown. Yet it is precisely in this willingness that true strength lies. It is the strength to walk away from situations that do not serve one's growth, to stand by one's principles even when they are unpopular, and to seek fulfillment not in the eyes of others, but within the depths of one's own soul. Self-reliance is not a solitary endeavor, but a deeply personal one. It is about finding the courage to be authentic, to live according to one's own values, and to create a life that is true to oneself. In this way, self-reliance is not the denial of connection, but the foundation upon which genuine relationships can be built, relationships that are not rooted in need or dependency, but in mutual respect and understanding. The more we cultivate inner strength, the more we become capable of offering strength to others, not out of a sense of obligation, but from a place of abundance and self-assurance. Freedom from judgment is not merely the absence of criticism. It is the liberation from the fear of what others think. It is an internal shift, a deep understanding that the opinions and expectations of the world are not the measure of one's worth. In a society that often judges and defines individuals by their relationships, achievements, and adherence to norms, breaking free from judgment requires a profound inner transformation. It means valuing one's own perspective over the often fleeting and superficial judgments of others. Living free from judgment begins with the recognition that judgment itself is inevitable. People will always have opinions, as everyone sees the world through the lens of their own experiences, values, and biases. To seek freedom from judgment is not to expect others to stop forming opinions, but to reach a state of mind where those opinions do not dictate one's actions or self-perception. It is about realizing that judgments, both good and bad, are reflections of the judges, not the judged. They reveal more about the person casting them than about the one receiving them. The fear of judgment often leads to a life of caution and conformity, where decisions are made to please others or to fit into societal expectations. This fear can act as a cage, keeping individuals from pursuing their true passions, expressing their authentic selves, or taking risks that lead to growth. It creates a scenario where one becomes a prisoner of external validation, constantly seeking approval to feel secure. Breaking free from this fear requires the courage to trust oneself, to make choices that align with one's own values and desires, even when those choices go against the grain. The journey toward freedom from judgment is not about becoming indifferent or detached from others, rather. It is about cultivating a sense of inner confidence that does not waver in the face of criticism. This confidence is not arrogance, but an acceptance of one's own imperfections and strengths. It is the understanding that self-worth does not depend on how others perceive us, but on how we perceive ourselves. It means embracing the possibility of making mistakes, of being misunderstood, or of not meeting everyone's expectations and being at peace with those outcomes. When one is free from the fear of judgment, a new kind of clarity emerges. Choices become more genuine, guided by intuition and personal values rather than by the desire to be liked or accepted. Creativity flourishes because the need to play it safe to avoid criticism fades away. In this state, authenticity becomes a guiding principle, leading to deeper connections with others. These connections are no longer based on shared pretenses or mutual validation, but on a true appreciation of one another's unique qualities. Freedom from judgment also means letting go of the need to judge others. Often the harshest critics are those who feel most judged themselves. By releasing the weight of judgment, both of oneself and of others, there is a shift towards empathy and understanding. It becomes easier to see people as they are, rather than through the filter of expectations or standards. This kind of openness allows for more meaningful interactions, as it creates a space where others feel safe to be their authentic selves without fear of being evaluated. Such freedom brings a sense of lightness, a feeling of being unburdened by the expectations and opinions that often weigh down one's spirit. It opens the door to a more spontaneous and joyful way of living, where actions are motivated not by fear, but by genuine desire. There is a sense of alignment between one's thoughts, words, and actions, a harmony that can only be achieved when one no longer feels the pressure to perform or to be something they are not. The irony is that the more one lets go of the fear of judgment, the more respect and admiration they often receive. People are drawn to authenticity, to those who are unapologetically themselves. This kind of freedom is not a rejection of society, but a redefinition of one's place within it. It is about participating in life not as a role to be played, but as a unique individual with a voice, a perspective, and a story worth telling. The freedom from judgment, therefore, is not an escape from reality, but a deeper engagement with it, unclouded by the need to fit into a mold or to fulfill the expectations of others. It is a liberation that starts from within and radiates outward, creating a ripple effect that encourages others to embrace their own authenticity as well. Embracing one's own company is an act of self-discovery, a choice to be comfortable with solitude and to find fulfillment in simply being. In a world that often equates solitude with loneliness, learning to enjoy one's own presence requires a shift in perspective. It is about recognizing that time spent alone is not empty, rather, it is a space filled with potential for reflection, creativity, growth, and an intimate connection with oneself. It is a reminder that our first and longest relationship is the one we have with ourselves, and nurturing it is the key to a richer, more meaningful life. The modern world, with its constant distractions and social pressures, can make solitude seem like a barren landscape, a place to be avoided or escaped from. There is a tendency to fill every quiet moment with noise, to reach for a phone, a screen, or a conversation to stave off the discomfort of being alone. Yet those who learn to embrace their own company understand that solitude is not a void, but a sanctuary. It is a place where one can retreat from the demands and expectations of others, a place to reconnect with the inner self without the influence of external voices. In solitude, there is an opportunity to listen to the quieter thoughts that often get drowned out in the chaos of daily life. It is in these moments of stillness that creativity often flourishes, as the mind is free to wander without interruption. Ideas take root, thoughts are given space to expand, and solutions to problems can arise naturally, without the rush to conform to the perspectives of others. Embracing one's own company is about giving oneself the freedom to explore the depths of the mind, to ponder, to imagine, and to dream without the filter of judgment or expectation. When we are comfortable in our own company, we begin to see ourselves more clearly. We learn to appreciate our own strengths, acknowledge our weaknesses, and accept the complexities that make us who we are. This kind of self-awareness is not always easy, as it requires confronting the parts of ourselves that we may prefer to avoid. Yet it is through this honest introspection that a sense of self-acceptance emerges, a quiet confidence that does not rely on the validation of others. And to be at ease alone is to find comfort in one's own skin, to feel at home within oneself. This inner comfort translates into a deeper sense of peace. The need for constant social validation diminishes, and the pressure to fit in or to be constantly connected fades away. There is a joy in the simplicity of being, in sitting quietly with one's thoughts, in engaging in activities for the sheer pleasure of them, without worrying about how they are perceived. Embracing one's own company allows for a life lived on one's own terms, guided by personal values and interests rather than by the expectations of others. The ability to enjoy solitude enhances the quality of relationships. When one does not fear being alone, relationships are no longer about filling a void or seeking affirmation. They become genuine connections based on shared understanding and mutual respect, rather than on a need for approval or companionship. Paradoxically, those who are comfortable in their own company are often more open to authentic connection, because they are not driven by the fear of loneliness. They do not cling to others out of necessity, but engage with them from a place of fullness and self-sufficiency. And to embrace one's own company is also to cultivate a sense of independence. It is about knowing that no matter the circumstances, one is capable of finding contentment within. This independence is not about rejecting the importance of others, but about recognizing that happiness is not something that can be given or taken away by another person. It is a state of being that is cultivated from within, a choice to find joy in the present moment and in the simple act of existing. In the quiet moments of solitude, there is an opportunity to reconnect with the natural world, to observe the changing seasons, to feel the rhythm of life without the noise of distraction. It is in these moments that one can experience a profound sense of presence, a feeling of being alive without the need to prove or perform. Embracing one's own company is not about withdrawing from the world, but about finding a way to engage with it more deeply, more authentically, and with a sense of inner completeness that no amount of social activity can replace. It is an invitation to be fully oneself, to enjoy the richness of one's own mind, and to discover that solitude, far from being a state of deprivation, can be a source of immense peace and contentment. The illusion of loneliness is a powerful and often misunderstood experience, a sensation that appears when we believe we are isolated, disconnected, and separate from the rest of existence. Yet loneliness in many ways is a mental construct of perception shaped by our expectations, societal norms, and a sense of what relationships should be. It is a feeling that can arise even in the midst of a crowded room, or while surrounded by people who care about us. This suggests that loneliness is less about physical isolation and more about an internal disconnection, a gap between how we imagine our lives should be and the reality we are experiencing. At its core, loneliness is the perception of being unseen, unheard, or misunderstood. It is rooted in the longing for deeper connection, for a sense of belonging that transcends superficial interactions. Yet this longing is often amplified by the stories we tell ourselves, stories of not being good enough, of not fitting in, or of being somehow unworthy of companionship. These narratives create a self-perpetuating cycle where the fear of loneliness becomes a barrier to authentic connection, reinforcing the very isolation we seek to escape. The illusion of loneliness is heightened by the emphasis society places on social validation. We are often taught to measure our happiness by the quantity of our relationships, the frequency of our interactions, and the extent of our social networks. In a world where constant connectivity is the norm, the absence of company can feel like a failure, a sign that something is wrong. This perception leads to a sense of inadequacy, as if being alone is an indication that we are not living up to the standards set by a culture that celebrates extroversion and visibility. However, the belief that constant companionship is the only path to happiness is a distortion and illusion that masks the potential richness of solitude. Loneliness often arises from an expectation that our sense of fulfillment should come from external sources. We look to others to complete us, to make us feel whole, or to fill a void that, in truth, can only be filled from within. When we place this weight on our relationships, they become fragile, burdened by unrealistic expectations that no one can fully meet. The illusion of loneliness persists because it is easier to seek completion in another person than to confront the deeper work of understanding and accepting oneself. In this way, loneliness becomes a signal not of our need for more people in our lives, but of a deeper need for self-awareness and self-acceptance. To dissolve the illusion of loneliness, one must first recognize that it is an emotional state, not an absolute reality. The feeling of being alone can be an invitation to turn inward, to explore the parts of ourselves that are often neglected in the pursuit of external validation. It is a call to reconnect with our own thoughts, feelings, and desires without the distraction of outside influence. This shift in perspective can transform loneliness from a source of suffering into an opportunity for growth, a chance to deepen our understanding of who we are and what truly matters to us. The illusion of loneliness is also tied to the way we compare our lives to those of others. In a world saturated with images of social connection, of people laughing, gathering, and sharing moments, we can easily fall into the trap of believing that everyone else is living a fuller, more connected life. These comparisons fuel the illusion, making our own solitary moments seem bleak by comparison. Yet the reality is that no one's life is as flawless as it appears from the outside, and everyone at some point experiences the pang of loneliness. Understanding this universal truth can help dismantle the illusion revealing that loneliness is not a unique failing but a shared part of the human condition. The idea that we are ever truly alone is itself a misconception. We are by nature deeply interconnected with the world around us. We exist within a web of relationships, not just with people, but with the environment, with ideas, and with the larger flow of life. The illusion of loneliness fades when we begin to see ourselves not as isolated beings, but as part of a greater whole. This shift in perception can lead to a sense of belonging that is not contingent upon specific relationships, but is rooted in a broader awareness of our place in the world. The illusion of loneliness is not about the absence of others, but about the absence of a deeper connection to oneself and to life as a whole. It is a reminder that the search for fulfillment cannot be outsourced, that true connection begins within. When we recognize that loneliness is a product of our perceptions and not an inherent reality, we are free to redefine our relationship with solitude and to see it as a source of strength rather than a sign of lack. By doing so, we open the door to a more profound sense of connection, one that is not dependent on the presence of others, but is found in the quiet presence of our own being. Sending external validation is a journey from dependence on the approval of others to a state of self-assurance, where one's sense of worth is rooted in internal understanding rather than in external acknowledgement. It is the process of moving away from the need to be constantly affirmed by the world, towards a deeper acceptance of oneself as inherently valuable, regardless of recognition or praise. This transition requires a fundamental shift in how we view ourselves and the standards by which we measure our success. From an early age, many of us are conditioned to seek validation outside ourselves. The education system, family expectations, and social environments often place a heavy emphasis on achievements, status, and appearances. We are praised for doing well, rewarded for conforming to expectations, and criticized when we fall short of those societal ideals. Over time, these patterns can create a dependency on external validation, making it easy to equate our value with how well we meet the standards set by others. This creates a constant striving to fit in, to excel, and to be seen in a positive light, even if it means compromising our true selves. However, the pursuit of external validation is a double-edged sword. While it can provide a temporary boost to our self-esteem, it is ultimately a fleeting and unstable source of worth. The opinions of others are often fickle, changing with time, trends, and circumstances. What may be valued in one context can be dismissed in another, leaving those who rely on external affirmation in a perpetual state of uncertainty. This dependence can lead to anxiety, as the fear of rejection or failure looms large, causing us to mold ourselves to fit expectations rather than to express our authentic selves. Transcending the need for external validation begins with the recognition that true fulfillment cannot be granted by others. It requires a conscious decision to shift focus from how we are perceived to who we truly are. This means developing a deeper understanding of our own values, strengths, and passions, qualities that remain constant even in the face of criticism or indifference. It is about cultivating an internal compass that guides our actions rather than being swayed by the judgments of those around us. This internal shift allows for a kind of freedom that is not dictated by external circumstances, but by an inner sense of alignment with our own truth. A key part of this process is learning to embrace vulnerability. Letting go of the need for approval can feel risky, as it means showing up as we are, without the protective layers of pretense or performance. Yet it is in this vulnerability that authenticity thrives. When we no longer hide behind the mask of what we think others want to see, we open the door to deeper connections, relationships based on who we are, not on who we are trying to be. This authenticity can be both liberating and empowering, as it allows us to engage with the world from a place of self-assurance rather than from a fear of judgment. Transcending external validation also involves redefining success. In a culture that often equates success with status, wealth, and recognition, choosing a different standard can be challenging. It requires a willingness to step off the conventional path and to define success in more personal and meaningful terms, perhaps as the pursuit of passion. the cultivation of wisdom, or the ability to live with integrity. This redefinition places the emphasis on process rather than outcome, on the intrinsic joy of doing something well rather than the external rewards it might bring. By shifting the focus from results to values, we find a deeper sense of satisfaction that is not easily shaken by the ups and downs of life. In embracing this new way of being, we come to understand that external validation is not inherently bad. It is simply not the foundation upon which a fulfilling life can be built. It is natural to enjoy praise and recognition, but these should be seen as byproducts of living in alignment with our values, not as the ultimate goal. This mindset shift allows us to appreciate external validation without becoming dependent on it, giving us the freedom to be ourselves without constantly seeking the approval of others. As we transcend the need for external validation, we cultivate a sense of self-worth that is resilient and enduring. This sense of worth does not disappear in the face of criticism, nor does it swell uncontrollably with praise. It remains steady, grounded in an acceptance of our own uniqueness, and the understanding that our value is not contingent upon the ever-changing standards of the external world. This inner stability provides a foundation from which we can pursue our goals, dreams, and relationships with a clarity and confidence that is unburdened by the fear of how we might be judged. The freedom that comes with transcending external validation is not about becoming isolated or detached from others. Rather, it is about engaging with the world from a place of wholeness, offering our true selves without the need to prove or impress. This shift opens the door to a life that is more honest, creative, and fulfilling, a life where we are free to explore, to fail, to succeed, and to be fully ourselves without the constraints of external expectations. It is an invitation to step into the fullness of our being, not for the sake of recognition, but for the simple joy of living authentically. In the end, the journey of a woman with no friends is not one of loss, but of profound discovery. It is a path that leads away from dependence on the external and toward a deeper connection with the self. Through solitude, she learns that loneliness is an illusion, a perception shaped by society's emphasis on constant companionship and validation. Yet, in the stillness of her own company, she finds freedom from judgment, embracing her authenticity without the need for approval. She learns that true fulfillment comes not from the number of connections, but from the quality of the relationship with oneself, a relationship marked by self-reliance, inner strength, and an acceptance of who she is, beyond the labels and expectations of the world. This journey reveals that the essence of human experience is not in the applause of the crowd, but in the quiet confidence of being true to oneself, finding meaning and contentment in simply existing as a unique individual. It is a lesson in liberation to transcend the need for external validation and to recognize that the most profound companionship we can have is with ourselves, and through that with life itself.